So I was hyped when Alphacore #1 was announced, and how could you not be hyped after that awesome animated trailer was put out? But for me, I was hyped even before the animated trailer was out, just because I wanted more of Brian Solari after reading Isom 1 and reading Alphacore's document cards. Now, as I usually do now with the books that have been out for a while, I will go ahead and give my non-spoiler thoughts real quick in the beginning, and then if you don't want to hear that, then you can fast forward if you want to get to the story breakdown. So Alphacore is the XEP wing of the Flores Park Police Department, and what they specialize in is in XEP related emergencies. So anything that has to do with superpowered folks, that's where they come in. Now the question is, did I like this book? Yes, but not only did I like it, I actually loved it. Now this book was a blast to read, and when it comes to Joe Bennett's art, I loved most of it. One of the things about Joe's art that I'm not very fond of are the design of some of the faces in some pages, like these right here. But overall, I really like the art, and the colors are beautiful as well. Now this book here is really a police procedural. After the death of an inmate, Alphacore must now investigate this XEP related death, and our main villains are more of background characters, while they hire others to take care of things for them. And it works good, but not great, in my opinion at least. And what I mean by that is, one of the villains, he seems to make questionable hiring choices. And we know he's not supposed to be making boneheaded decisions like this, and then his partner has to come and clean up his work. That's what I mean by that. Now we do get quite a bit of action. We get an intense ending action scene where the stakes are high, and we get, well, at least for me, we do get a bit of an emotional death that I didn't see coming this soon. I actually wanted to get more of that character. Now after this book, a couple of the characters here, they're gonna have to keep their ego in check. Now the book is paced well, and it doesn't even feel long. You can probably read it all in one sitting like I did a couple years ago. And wow, I actually can't believe it's been already 2 years. So overall, yes, I do recommend this book if you haven't gotten in on it yet. It really is a fun, entertaining read. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into the story breakdown. So this story begins with a bank robbery. Flores Park PD has the area secure, and the bank robber comes out of the bank threatening he'll kill the hostage. Everything is ready to go from 0 to 100 real quick, but then Brian Solari arrives and takes the bank robber for a ride in the air. Come to find out, this guy has a vest full of explosives strapped on him, but the bank robber is surprised when Brian takes it off and throws it up high and detonates. Now this is our first indication that this was just not a bank robbery, but more on that later. When Brian takes this criminal down with the cops to be arrested, we'll get our first view of Alphacore members interacting with the regular cops, and it turns out that they are not well liked. They don't like Alphacore interfering with police business unless it has to deal with exceptionals, the freak calls. They actually don't see Alphacore as real cops. The next scene, we see Lillian Ronashi and Michael Copper, who will be our primary villains. We'll find out here that this bank robbery was Michael's doing. But it wasn't just a bank robbery. He needed that vest to go off in a vault because he has certain funds in that vault that cannot be justified and can lead to him. Now he has 3 problems. Number 1, get rid of the loose end. Number 2, get rid of the funds in the vault. And number 3, the Alphacore. Brian arrives back at Alphacore's airbase, also known as the Eagle's Nest. Ingrid, which is the newest member of Alphacore, and Sandy, who is tech support on the base, they're watching the news, and Ingrid is not liking one bit how Brian's antics may be affecting relations between Alphacore and the rest of Flores Park population. Public opinion and whatnot. They get told to cool off a bit after going back and forth for a while, and this is when we get a call for Alphacore asking for backup. We got Mick Davies and other officers at a motel serving a warrant, and we get a bit more lore here. There's a law called the Fawcett Act that basically states that Alphacore cannot intervene unless exceptionals are involved. The warrant here is for a woman, but inside the room is Galvin James, who is an XEP. Galvin attacks the officers with his lightning powers, and this is where Braxwell pulls up in on the action and stops Galvin from causing any more harm. They arrest the woman for shoplifting the dollar store, and it makes me wonder, all that firepower for a woman shoplifting the dollar store? It does seem a bit strange. But I do have a theory that Mick Davies is secretly working with Michael Copper. I believe that Mick Davis has been meeting with Michael secretly. I think Michael needed an accept to be locked up in the same place as the bank robber. And since Galvin's girlfriend has been shoplifting, then she will be the perfect person to go after, since Galvin would defend her. Back at the police station, Detective Callie is interrogating the bank robber. The civil contrarian named Vanison, the one that Brian and Ingrid were watching on TV earlier, enters the room to be the bank robber's lawyer. Now up at the police chief's office, he's having a word with Brian, just reiterating to him that Alphacore are not first responders. That even though they are a value to the city and to the police force, they can't just be running around doing their own thing and just go to where they are needed when they are called. And man, I'll even say that even after reading the first 2 issues of the Great War of Separation, the fact that Brian and his team get treated like this kinda sucks a bit. After the lawyer and the bank robber finish talking, Vanison moves on to the next client, which just so happens to be Galvin James. Later that night, Galvin asks for one of the officers for a light for a cigarette. The officer lights him up, and in the process, Galvin pulls him in and gets his taser for a little juice of it. That's when another officer arrives and shoots her taser and hits both the officer and Galvin, which then causes Galvin to power up, and he uses powers to knock out both officers unconscious. He then heads over to the bank robber's cell to kill him, leaving him burnt to a crisp. Maybe now you can see why I think Mick Davis is working with Michael. In the next scene, we got Detective Callie investigating what happened. Since an accept is involved now, Alphacore will be assisting in the investigation. A new character named Wilkins arrives with a list of known associates. Ingrid and Wilkins will work on that list while Brian takes a second look at Texas Trust Bank, and Detective Callie and her partner investigate the lawyer. Back with Lillian and Michael, she is pissed that 2 people are now connected to the lawyer, but Michael is not done yet, as the game is still going for him, introducing us to Billy Bob. Lillian decides to step in and take care of the situation by hiring her own guy. Now over at Texas Trust Bank, a man enters asking to enter the vault and gets in by using his powers to convince the bank manager to open it. Now this accept's power is that of mind control. This accept grabs what's in the vault and puts in a surprise for Alphacore to find. Now as he leaves, Brian arrives. Moving over to Wilkins and Ingrid, while they're going from place to place, Wilkins is a solid dude that tries to be a bit positive, but Ingrid is a bit harsh to him. We learned that Ingrid always wanted to make detective, and she wants to be treated like, like a regular cop and not a freak like she thinks Wilkins is treating her like. But she couldn't be more wrong about the guy. They arrive at the next location of known associates, where Ingrid finds out that Wilkins is actually an accept himself. They hear movement and enter the apartment, and they get greeted with Galvin shocking Wilkins with his powers. Going back to the bank, Billy Bob is there transforming into this rock in flames and begins to fight Brian. Back with Ingrid, she uses her energy wires to fight Galvin. Back at the bank, we get a 2-page spread of Brian using a table to cover himself from the flames. Back with Galvin, Wilkins wakes up, takes out his gun, and fires some rounds at Galvin. By the way, while this is happening, Ingrid is telling Galvin his Miranda rights, which I personally thought was hilarious. Back to the bank, Billy Bob is shooting his flames right at Brian's face and leaves Brian on the ground. Back with Ingrid, Galvin goes flying out the window, landing in a metal trash container, knocking him out. Back at the bank, while Brian is down, Billy Bob enters the vault looking for the package, and him not knowing Lillian's guy had already taken the package, an employee closes the vault, locking him in. And since Billy Bob needs oxygen to use his abilities, hypoxia sets in, and he's back to human form. Back at the apartment complex, Galvin is being put in the back of a truck, and Ingrid apologizes to Wilkins for treating him a bit bad earlier. Wilkins tells her he can manipulate anything metallic, but usually does it for like party tricks. He actually rates a level 2 on the Schuster scale. Ingrid tries to make him feel better by telling him that he can, go up on the scale by essentially training. It's like a muscle, you gotta work it. Back at the bank, they go over the security cameras and find the man that took out the funds, saying out loud which deposit box he's looking at. Brian gets whatever is inside without a warrant, which might bite him in the ass in issue number 2. At the news station, Vanison is being interviewed about the use of accepts and how things have gotten worse with the hiring of them. After the interview concludes, Detective Callie and her partner want a word with this guy. They ask him questions about 2 of his clients. Before they continue with the conversation, he steps into the restroom where Vanison then gets greeted with the mind control accept. Fat Boy leaves the restroom and the cops get suspicious and enter the restroom looking for Vanison. Turns out Vanison jumped out the window and then ended up killing himself. But of course, we know that it was Fat Boy. And back at Alphacore's base, the USB drive that was left for Alphacore in the vault, Brian wants to see what's in there. Meanwhile, Callie looks at the cameras at the station and notices the connection with the fat except being at the bank, and then again at the news station. Callie calls for the assistance of Alphacore since they believe they're about to deal with an except, and they end up sending Braxwell. Over at Lillian and Michael's, they think that they're good for now. Everything is taken care of since Lillian has left something for Alphacore, and if they fall for the bait, it's going to get very bad for a whole lot of people. Braxwell arrives at the location of Detective Callie. As they're about to make entry to the house, Benny, which is the fat guy, the mind control except, he opens up the garage and tries to use his powers but fails due to Braxwell listening to music, so he can't listen to whatever Benny is saying. 2 more guys come out, and at least one of them is an except with some sort of mutated arm. Brian back at the base decides to plug in that USB drive onto a computer, which is a big mistake. It causes an electric discharge, and a little emote with horns appears on the screen signaling they've been hacked. Lillian gets a notification that it's pretty much go time and steps out of her evening activities. With what's happened, the ship is now bound to crash. While this is happening, Lillian can listen to all of this in real time. Down with Braxwell, he secured the suspects and they see that the airbase is falling, about to crash, and Braxwell then books it towards them. And since Lillian has complete control of the airbase, their final destination is Police Square 1. Now, the weight of the base is way too much for Brian and Braxwell to handle, so Brian begins to save civilians that are on the way. The captain is letting everyone know that they're about to crash, so everybody needs to evacuate. And then we pan out to Wilkins. And right here, this is where I had the bad feeling about Wilkins, because he seems like he's about to try something heroic. As the airbase starts crashing, landing onto the street first, Wilkins, the only one left, stays behind, and using his powers, he starts stopping the base from crashing onto the Police Square 1, and he goes 150% without giving up. He stretches as much as he can and finally stops the airbase, but it did come with a price. That's when Wilkins became a hero. Wilkins died saving a whole lot of people. Right here is one reason why I am very much looking forward to reading Alphacore 2. I want to know what happens next after this whole chaotic disaster happened. I want to know what this does to the citizens of Flores Park. Will they demand that Alphacore get disbanded? Will Brian take responsibility for what he's caused? Because after all, he did get that USB drive without a warrant. But anyway, this book finished with Alphacore catching up with Lillian and Michael at the airport before they leave for their little vacation. Alphacore lets them know they got their eyes on them ever since their companies have been coming up in a series of felonies. After bragging about going on vacation, since they're not being charged with anything yet, Ingrid takes out her whips and chops off a wing of the jet to delay their vacation. And that's where it ends. Now I personally, as with other fans, have been asking for Alphacore 2 ever since we finished reading this issue, and we're finally getting that book in our hands sometime in the beginning of the next year, which I personally cannot wait. This issue was actually my favorite Rippaverse book for a long time, but I'm gonna put the whole, which one is your favorite Rippaverse book to the side, because I could easily choose 3 books that are my favorite, so, I wouldn't be able to choose just one. Unless I guess I really think about it and like detail and all, which I'm not gonna do. But anyway, let me know if you are looking forward to Alphacore 2 like I am, and what are some of the things that you'd like to be addressed in there. For me, I do want to know how the public is feeling about Alphacore. I want to see if Brian feels like he has the blood of Wilkins and possibly others on his hands, and maybe it's weighing on him. Now go ahead and put it on in the comment section, and I do thank you all for watching. I'll go ahead and end the video there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, y'all.